Here is every WCA puzzle explained in 18 minutes.
Starting with the 2x2. Step 1. Make the first layer of the cube. Yellow's looking pretty good, but the side colors aren't completely right. So I'm actually going to go with orange instead, because if I move this down, I've got 3 pieces in place, and I can get the last piece in like this. Once that's done, a single algorithm will get the entire top layer the same color, align it, and then one final algorithm to swap these 2 pieces around, and you're done.
By the way, when I say these are official puzzles, I mean they're the ones approved for competitions by the World Cube Association.
Just like the 2x2, we're going to do this one layer by layer. That's actually how we approach most of the cubic puzzles. If I want to start on the white layer, first I'm going to make the white cross, making sure that the side colors also match up with the centers. So I can do this and this, which matches those 2 up. And finally, I want to get the white-green piece over there, so I can move the bottom layer across, push that in, and move it back. Next up, we're going to finish the white layer by getting all the corners in, so that can be done by lining it up and pushing it in like this. This piece over there can go in like that. And in fact, experienced cubists will do tricky things like being able to put multiple pieces in at the same time, like this. But the first way people learn is just to put it in one at a time. Once that first layer is done, we're now going to work on the second layer pieces that can go in like this and like this. And now we have 2 entire layers of the cube done. Just like the 2x2, there's an algorithm we can do to get the entire top layer done in a single move. And then we're going to move, in this case, these 3 corners around in an algorithm like this. The 4x4 looks so much harder, and I mean, there are a lot more pieces, but the main goal is that you want to get that 4x4 looking like this. And if this doesn't look like it's any better, check this out. Can you see how these 2 cubes are actually exactly the same? Okay, obviously the 4x4 has more pieces, but we've actually turned this 4x4 effectively into a 3x3. See, these 4 green pieces combine to make one single green center, and those 2 together join to make this one. Which means if you know how to solve a 3x3, you can solve a 4x4 if it looks like this. So let's reduce this into a 3x3. Step number 1, let's make our centers. That's first center, second center. We always make them opposite each other first. Third center. And the fourth is a bit tricky because you can't just make it any color you want. According to a normal Rubik's Cube color scheme, white, green, yellow, which means this has to be red. So let's make the red center there, which will make this one blue and that one orange. We're done. Next up, we're going to make all of the edges. So that can be done by finding 2 edges that line up together really nice. If we temporarily break the centers, taking it out, fixing the centers again, and you now have that solved edge. Rinse and repeat for every single edge. And our very last 2 edges can be done by lining them up mirror image like this, slicing it across, then flipping this edge completely like this, putting it back, and Bob's your uncle. Now let's just solve it like a regular 3x3, and voila, you're done. Next, 5x5. Guess what? The principle is exactly the same for our 4x4, except we do have a lot more pieces. So making those centers can be a little bit more tricky. That, and that's my first center done. Let's slowly build my yellow. Yellow's complete. In some ways, 5x5 is actually easier than 4x4 because we have this centerpiece to tell us what this side's going to be without having to remember the color scheme. So I know this side's going to be green, which I can do like this. And this side's going to be red like this. We're done. Next, we're going to make the edges to reduce it to a 3x3. I'm going to pick the ones that look like they're already partly done, like this one. So the other missing piece is this blue-red one right there. Slice across, a full edge is paired, replace it, and let's keep on going. All right, onto our last 4 edges. Man, there are so many pieces that I need to look for. And final edge, and we're done. It's now a 3x3, as you can tell. And so we're going to solve it just like we did the 4x4 and the 3x3. Voila! Next, 3x3 one-handed. You would think, hey, isn't this exactly the same as a regular 3x3, just with one hand? And I mean, you're sort of right, but there are a bunch of other things that we want to be aware of. Firstly, even though I'm right-handed, I'm actually going to use my left hand because my left hand is much more stable, believe it or not, with a lot of the moves that I need to do. Secondly, as you can see, I sometimes turn the cube this way or this way so that I can mostly just use my pinky and my index finger for majority of the moves. Check this out. Pretty cool. And then, oh, this is the last one there. And that's my first 2 layers done. Orient the top layer, And then we're gonna permute this last layer just like that. And that's one-handed. Oh, if you're wondering why these cubes have these beautiful faces and logos on them, it's because they are my special custom designed Tingman cubes, of which there are a bunch to choose from, can be found at thecubicle.com. The world's best speed cubing shop, the super professional, excellent customer service. And really there's only one thing you need to look out for, which is not forgetting to type in code Tingman at the checkout to get yourself a sweet discount. Go check out thecubicle.com and get yourself some of these incredible puzzles. Ah, the beautiful square one, aka Squan. It can be a little bit tricky to even conceive what this puzzle will look like when it's solved, but I mean, it essentially is just a cube. Right now, it's very much not looking like a cube, and so step number one, which admittedly is quite a frustrating step, is to turn this puzzle into cube shape. For many people, this alone is what stops them from wanting to solve this puzzle, but there it is. I've now reduced it into a cube. Step number two, we're gonna align all of the corners, which I can do like this. So I've got all the yellow corners on top and the white corners below. Next, we've got a bunch of algs we can use that will get these edges in the right places, like this. Step number four, we're gonna move these yellow and white corners around in one single move so that all that's left after this should be the edges. Don't mind this middle strange bit, by the way, we can fix it at the very end. And then finally, a bunch of fun algorithms to get all those edges done. And I've just got one of the worst cases possible, which is needing to swap these two. It's called getting parity. You don't have to worry about it for now. It's just very frustrating, but it's done. Next, the Skewb, so named because it doesn't turn like a normal cube. It's a skew, get it? A Skewb. Step one, let's get one layer done, which you can normally figure out by a bit of trial and error. There I got my entire yellow side done. Then we're gonna get the opposite color completely on top. In this case, it's white, which I can do in a single 4 moves like this. I should actually say, despite how this looks, this is one of the easiest puzzles to learn because it's the only one that you can solve with really just like one single algorithm, which we call the sledgehammer. So if you might have noticed, all I'm doing is sledgehammers. So I just have to move these 4 centers around now. So hold it like this, do the sledgehammer, 4 moves, turn around like this, another sledgehammer, and that's this cube completely done. It's really fun to learn. Next, the only triangle cube, the beautiful Pyraminx. Step one with the Pyraminx is, oh, it's already done. This is a suspicious scramble. I was gonna say step one is to get this radioactive sign, which is already done, but you know, okay, look, if it's not done, then get it done. Oh, I should also say that at any point in the solve, you can just rotate these little tips so that they face the right way. Speed solvers usually try and do most of them at the beginning, and then they'll finish the rest at the end if they can. Next up, we're gonna get the rest of that first layer done. So if we're doing green, we're gonna get this green-yellow piece over there where it needs to go. So there it is, and we put it right in. Green-red is gonna go in here. And finally, green-blue is gonna go in here. And then for our top layer, we just have a few options of algorithms that we can choose from. In this case, it's this, and we're done. Next, the puzzle with the most number of sides, the Megaminx. 12 to be exact. We're gonna solve this guy layer by layer, which might seem a little bit intuitive because I mean, where even are these layers, right? I mean, the first layer is pretty clear. I've made the cross, or in this case, the star of the white layer. And then I can start putting the rest of the star in like that. I'm actually filling in, as you can see, both the bottom layer, the star, but also the edge that needs to go in there. It's a method called F2L, or first 2 layers. And that's my first 2 layers done. And you might be wondering, well, where's my next layer? And the answer is, it's gonna be this entire section here, leaving only the top layer. So we call this next move the second 2 layers, or S2L. So bit by bit, we're gonna start populating the second 2 layers, starting with this yellow star. This should finish it. That's yellow done. And I'm gonna keep on moving in a clockwise direction to get blue done next, then red, so on and so forth. Now we can finish both green and purple at the same time because that's all that's left, which I can do like this and like this. Voila, second 2 layers. All that's left now is a top layer. Just like we've done so many times before, we're gonna get the entire top to be the same color. In this case, it's gonna be gray, which we can do with some clever algs like this. Next, I'm gonna get all the edges in place, leaving only the corners. So I've got these 2, that's correct. So I only need to get these moved around, and that's that. And then finally, using some sneaky moves, I can pocket that piece down there and move it in place to where I need it to. And I continue to go around the cube using that little cheeky sequence. until we're done. And that's the Megaminx. Oh, I am at 6s and 7s with these puzzles. See what I did there? Not gonna lie, not entirely sure why I separated this from 2 to 5, because the method is extremely similar. We want to make centers, as you can see. That's my second one. So let's get that going. That's my third one. And just like the 4x4, there's no centerpiece. And so I need to remember, hey, if these three colors are here, the one over here is going to be green. You might also notice that I'm working by creating bars. That's probably the easiest way to do it. There are some other little tricks you can do. Like if you make a bit of a T shape, then if you find that piece right there, where is it? Like that one right there, you can bring it down. And then you can make 2 bars with it. If you didn't understand that, that's fine. I took a really long time getting that myself. And our very final bar for green is now complete, leaving red and blue. Usually you end up with something pretty funny like this where you've only got one piece. And there are some fun commutators you can do. Like if you just bring that one piece down like that and bring it back up. Voila, it's solved. Just like we did for 4x4 and 5x5, we're gonna find all of these little pieces and pair them all up like that, take them out, and then keep on pairing. So once again, the key word here is reduction. We want to reduce this 6x6 down so it's just looking like a 3x3 that we can solve just by turning the outer layers. And it's been reduced, my friends, to a 3x3. I love it when a plan comes together. Let's solve this little baby just like we would a 3x3. Oh, it's so close. I can almost taste it. Not that you want to taste a 6x6. And oh my gosh, I got a TheLLSkip. That was fun. Hopefully you can see that as we continue to enlarge this to a 7, even 8, 9, or 10, it's really not a lot harder than the original. It just takes longer. One way I describe it is that it's very much like how a 1,000 piece jigsaw puzzle isn't actually a lot harder than a 500 piece. It just takes longer. You're just doing the same things over and over again. But if you know the original principle and how to solve a 3x3 and how to reduce cubes into a 3x3, hey, you can basically solve any puzzle in the whole world. Any puzzle, except maybe for blind. Blind is a fun one. You're gonna need one of these, of course, once you've memorized the cube. And strictly speaking, you want a cube that also doesn't have a logo on it. But I mean, come on. It's the Tigman logo, now available at thecubicle.com. But the way you solve a 3x3 blindfolded is very different from how you would solve it sighted, layer by layer. In this case, we're literally just swapping pieces over and over again until the whole cube is solved. Believe it or not, this 3x3x3 really only has 2 different pieces. One are the corners, and 2 are the ones in between the corners, which we call the edges. That's really it. Oh, there's also the centers, but I mean, they never move around really. So blind solving is a 2-stage process. First, you want to memorize the state of the cube. Second, you want to carry out your movements to solve it. Within each stage is also 2 stages, because first we want to memorize all of the edges, and then we want to memorize all of the corners. Let's start with the edges. So the general concept is this. Say I want to swap this piece over here with this piece over here. Guess what? There's an algorithm that can do that, and it goes like this. See? I did it. I swapped these 2 pieces. Of course, there isn't any algorithm that only swaps 2 on a 3x3. You will end up swapping at least 2 others as well, in this case, these 2 corners. But if you do that move an even number of times, these 2 will eventually go back to where they are, and it'll be as if you didn't move these at all. Now, the beauty comes when you do a setup move so that the 2 pieces you swap might, let's say, be this piece and this piece. So I move that one up to where that one was from before, do my swapping algorithm, and then move it back down. Look what I just did. I swapped that piece with that piece. That's exactly what we're gonna do here. So remember the algorithm from before swapped these 2 pieces around? So I wanna think of where this piece needs to go. It needs to go down there. Hey, what are the odds? I might have set it up just for that. So if I move that in place up like this, do our magic algorithm, and then move it back down where it came from, look. I solved that one piece. Of course, the rest of the cube is completely messed up. But if I continue doing that over and over for every single piece, I will eventually solve the whole thing. Yeah, let's go. This entire cube now has all of the edges solved, or also one lucky corner that's solved. But I do have all the rest that I need to get in place. Next, I just need to do the equivalent algorithm, but with the corners, swapping individual corners and moving them where they need to go. Oh, I should say this should be done blindfolded. So let's put this on. Just kidding. We haven't actually memorized where the pieces go yet. And the way we do that is by using a lettering system, the most common of which puts A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, so on and so forth around the entire cube. So I might memorize that N goes to U, which goes to S, which goes to, where is it? Oh yeah, O. N-U-S-O. And that was done. So good. And if I did that all right, the cube is now solved. But these are 4x4 and 5x5 blindfolded. Why anyone would do this, I mean, beats me. I'm one of those people. As you can tell, just like the 3x3, the corners are going to be exactly the same, except now we've got 4 centers and we also have 2 edge pieces, which just makes it a little bit more complicated. But the concept is exactly the same. This time my buffer piece, the one I'm going to start swapping from, is right here. So I need to remember that goes down here, which is U. And that then goes over here, which is O. U-O, I think is Yu-Gi-Oh! In my memorization scheme. That's you done. O is going to be done like this. That's all my centers complete. Next for my edges, which we now call wings. We just have a slightly different way of doing it. So that's going to be E and I, which for me is 8, E-I. And that's done. And finally, for my corners, exactly the same with 3x3. The cube just feels like it's bigger, but the way you do it is exactly the same. And 5x5 blind. There are now a total of 5 different pieces with the 5x5. There's corners, there's wings, there's midges, and then you've got your X centers. These guys go around like this, so you can see they're the same ones. Called X because they form an X over here. And then your plus centers, which are these 4. But the way you solve 5 blind is exactly the same as 4 blind. They're just additional pieces. So the first thing we're going to do is solve the X centers one by one, and I can do it like this. Then we're going to locate all the plus centers and we're going to solve them. Remember, you first got to memorize where they've all been displaced to and do all of this blindfolded. And then we're going to solve our wings, which we can see over here like this. Then our midges, which are these center edge pieces. This one's exactly the same as a 3x3, fortunately. And then finally, we've just got the corners left. Same as the 4x4, same as the 3x3, which if I can try and be clever enough to do it 3 style, there we go. 5 blind solved. Now, fun fact, I've only successfully solved a 5x5 blindfolded once in my entire life, which you can see in this video over here. But watch that after this finishes because there is one very important puzzle remaining. And that, my friends, is the clock. Look at this thing of beauty. It is definitely the odd one out compared to all the others because it doesn't have twisty layers. Instead, it's got these dials that you turn and these buttons that you press. But check out what happens when I do that. And then if I push this down and put that one up, hey, can you see? And using that, we basically control the entire puzzle. When nothing's pushed up, all it does is the corners. So step number 1, we want to align all of these clock faces in the center so they all point in the same direction. That's all the bottom done now. And then I can control them all. So align with that top one. And there you go. That's my cross on one side. Flip it around and start doing my cross on the other side. Now you might be wondering, hang on, isn't this going to mess up the one behind? But guess what? If I only turn the dial next to this pin that's pushed up and turn it like this, look on the back, it doesn't affect any of those centers at all. It's pretty genius. And that's a cross on both sides done. Now we're going to align it with all of these corners to get them matchy. And a quick check to make sure it's the same on back. We're done. But I did miss one very important detail, and that's how you can actually solve these cubes. So check out my tutorials over there so you can be a cuber, or some really fun unboxings over here. Thanks for watching.